The diamond caught the morning light, scattering tiny rainbows across my kitchen wall. 3 carats of promises, memories, and sacrifice, all about to slip through my fingers. Again. My name is Lana, and I was about to sell my engagement ring to fund my brother's college education. The same ring I'd spent 2 years paying off after Marcus died because I couldn't bear to part with it then. But Tyler's acceptance letter to NYU changed everything. My phone buzzed, interrupting my moment of reflection. Jordan's name flashed on the screen. "Have you seen Tyler's Instagram?" she asked without preamble. "You know I don't follow social media much these days," I replied, still staring at the ring. "Why?" "Girl, you need to look, now." I pulled up Instagram while keeping Jordan on the line. There was Tyler, my baby brother, lounging in what looked like a high-end New York club, surrounded by bottles of champagne and designer shopping bags. "That's from last night," Jordan said softly. "Lana, isn't he supposed to be studying?" My throat tightened. "He is. He's probably just celebrating something. Midterms, maybe? With Cristal? In the VIP section of Lavo? That's not exactly ramen noodle budget territory." I thought back to 6 months ago, sitting across from Tyler at our mom's worn kitchen table. His hands had trembled as he showed me the acceptance letter. "I can't ask Mom for this kind of money," he'd said, voice cracking. "She's already working 2 jobs. "Let me worry about it," I'd told him, already touching the ring on my finger. "You just focus on studying." Now, looking at the photo, something cold settled in my stomach. I should call him. "It's only 9 there," Jordan said. "He's probably still asleep after that party." I dialed anyway. It went straight to voicemail. "Hey Ty, just checking in. Call me when you can." My mother's voice startled me from the doorway. "Everything okay, honey?" I quickly closed Instagram. "Mom, I thought you were at work." Double shift got canceled. She walked over and hugged me from behind, then froze when she saw the ring on the counter. "Oh, Lana." "It's fine, Mom. Really." "No, it's not fine. That ring meant everything to you. Marcus would have wanted Tyler to have a chance," I cut her off. "Besides, it's just sitting in my jewelry box most days." Mom's eyes welled up. "You've always taken care of everyone else. Even after Marcus. You never let yourself grieve properly, always making sure Tyler and I were okay." My phone buzzed again. A text from Tyler. "Can't talk now. In class. Love you." I checked the time in New York. 9:15 a.m. According to the schedule he'd sent me, his first class wasn't until 11. "I need to go to New York," I said suddenly. Mom's eyebrows shot up. "What? Why?" "To surprise Tyler. See how he's settling in." I picked up the ring, its weight suddenly foreign in my hand. "And to visit a jewelry appraiser I found online. They're offering the best price." "At least let me help with the plane ticket," Mom started, but I shook my head. "You need to save for retirement. I've got this." I slipped the ring into my pocket. "Besides, it'll be good to see Tyler. Make sure he's adjusting well." Jordan, still on the phone, cleared her throat. "Want me to come with you?" "No, but thanks. This is something I need to do alone." After hanging up, I booked the cheapest flight I could find for the next day. As I packed my overnight bag, more notifications from Tyler's Instagram popped up. Designer watches, rooftop parties, a new apartment in Manhattan that definitely wasn't student housing. My hand brushed against the ring in my pocket. 3 carats of sacrifice, meant to be his ticket to a better life through education. Instead, it seemed to be funding something else entirely. The last photo stopped me cold. Tyler, arm around a glamorous blonde, both holding up glasses of champagne. The caption read, "Living my best life. Thanks to my amazing sister for making all this possible. Blessed NYC or luxury life." My fingers trembled as I dialed Professor Brown's number, Tyler's former mentor from his community college days, the one person who might help me understand what was really going on. "Lana?" his familiar voice answered. "This is unexpected." "Professor Brown, I need your help. It's about Tyler." "Ah," he said, his tone shifting. "I was wondering when you'd call." The Uber dropped me off in front of a gleaming high-rise in Manhattan's Upper East Side. Not exactly the student housing address Tyler had given me. I double-checked the location I'd tracked his phone to. Definitely here. Can I help you? The doorman eyed my travel-worn appearance suspiciously. I'm here to see Tyler. Apartment 1507. Mr. Holmes? He raised an eyebrow. And you are? His sister. His demeanor changed instantly. Oh, Miss Lana, Mr. Tyler has mentioned you. Please, go right up. The elevator ride gave me time to process the luxury surrounding me. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, a monthly rent that probably cost more than I made in half a year. I knocked on 1507. Music thumped from inside, along with laughter and the clink of glasses. It was 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. The door swung open. A tall blonde in designer clothes looked me up and down. Can I help you? I'm looking for Tyler. Oh my God, are you Lana? She squealed, pulling me into an unexpected hug. I'm Chelsea. Tyler talks about you constantly. Come in, come in. The apartment was straight out of a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Modern art adorned the walls. Empty champagne bottles decorated every surface. Tyler emerged from what looked like a home theater room, followed by 3 other people dressed like they'd just stepped off a runway. Lana? His face went pale. What are you... why didn't you tell me you were coming? Surprise, I said flatly. Chelsea clapped her hands. This is perfect. We were just celebrating Tyler's new investment portfolio. He's such a financial genius. Investment portfolio? I turned to Tyler. What about your classes? The room went quiet. Tyler's friends exchanged glances. Maybe we should give them some privacy, Chelsea suggested, ushering everyone toward the door. Once alone, Tyler's confident facade crumbled slightly. Look, I can explain. Please do. I pulled out my phone, showing him his class schedule. Because according to this, you should be in Economics 101 right now. I dropped that class. It was too basic for what I'm doing now. And what exactly are you doing now? He gestured around the apartment. Living my potential. I've made connections here, Lana. Real opportunities. College is for people who need a safety net. I'm already making more than any entry-level graduate. With what money, Tyler? He wouldn't meet my eyes. I took the tuition money and invested it, made some smart plays in crypto, got into some exclusive trading groups. You took the money from my engagement ring and gambled with it? It wasn't gambling. I tripled the investment in 2 months. I walked to his bedroom door, pushed it open. Designer clothes everywhere. A watch collection worth more than our mother's house. Bank statements scattered across his desk. Mom's working double shifts, I said quietly, picking up a statement. I sold the last piece of Marcus I had left, and you're buying Gucci loafers? You don't understand how it works here, Tyler protested. Image is everything. I had to look the part to get into the right circles, and it worked. I'm making real money now. Show me your class schedule, your actual one. He hesitated. I'm taking a gap semester just until... Until what? Until you lose everything on a bad trade? Until this fantasy life comes crashing down? It's not a fantasy. God, you're just like Mom, stuck in that small-town mindset where everyone has to follow the same safe, boring path. The words hit like a slap. I thought of all the nights I'd stayed up with him, helping with homework. The pride in his voice when he'd gotten into NYU. The brother I thought I knew. You're right, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. I am like Mom. We both believed in you. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Lana, wait. I'll pay you back for the ring, with interest, once this next investment pays off. It's not about the money, Tyler. I met his eyes. It's about trust and responsibility. 2 things I thought I taught you. I am being responsible. I'm securing my future. No, I said quietly. You're running from it. As I walked out, Chelsea was waiting in the hallway. Is everything okay? Tyler's been so stressed lately about the trades not performing. I cut her off. How much has he lost? She blinked. Lost? The investments. How much? I'm not supposed to say, but last week was pretty bad. He said he just needs another month to turn it around. I nodded, pulled out my phone, and dialed Professor Brown again. I'm in New York, I said when he answered. And you were right about everything. Let's talk about that scholarship program you mentioned. Professor Brown's office at Columbia University felt like stepping into another world. Books lined every wall, and the afternoon sun cast long shadows through the tall windows. He hadn't changed much since I'd last seen him at Tyler's community college graduation. Same salt and pepper beard, same thoughtful eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Coffee?" he offered, gesturing to a French press on his desk. "I need something stronger after what I just saw." He smiled sadly. "Tyler's new lifestyle isn't quite what you expected?" "Did you know?" I leaned forward. "About him dropping out?" "He didn't exactly drop out, he just stopped showing up." Professor Brown poured 2 cups of coffee anyway. "Started missing classes about 2 months ago. When I reached out, he told me he'd found a better opportunity." "Crypto trading," I said bitterly, "and some investment scheme he won't explain properly." "Ah, yes, the siren song of quick money." He took a sip of coffee. "You know, Tyler was one of my most promising students back at the community college. Brilliant mind for economics when he applied himself. What happened? New York happened. Or rather, the idea of New York he'd built up in his head." Professor Brown pulled out a folder. He started following these self-styled finance gurus on social media, became obsessed with their lifestyles, the cars, the clothes, the instant wealth. And now he's living it, with my money. Not for long, from what I hear. The crypto market's been volatile. Several of these exclusive trading groups have turned out to be elaborate scams. I buried my face in my hands. I should have known, should have checked on him sooner. You're here now. He slid the folder across his desk. And I think I have a solution that might benefit everyone. Inside was a detailed proposal for a scholarship program. Full ride, including housing and expenses. The catch? An intensive community service requirement and mandatory financial literacy courses. "The Redemption Scholarship," I read aloud, "officially sponsored by Columbia's economics department. Very prestigious, very selective." His eyes twinkled. "And completely tailored to one specific candidate. You created this just for Tyler?" "Let's say I had a feeling it might be needed. The community service portion is run through local shelters and financial literacy programs, teaching basic budgeting to people who've hit hard times." The irony wasn't lost on me. "And you think he'll go for it?" "Right now, Tyler's running out of options. Those trading losses Chelsea mentioned, they're significant. He's burning through money faster than he can make it." My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "I'm sorry about earlier. Can we talk?" "He's reaching out," I showed Professor Brown the message. "Perfect timing. The scholarship application deadline is next week." He handed me another document. "Here's the press release we'll be sending to all local universities. Make sure it finds its way to him. Won't he suspect something when he's the only applicant?" "Oh, there will be other applicants, all carefully selected to be either underqualified or unavailable. The selection committee, which includes me, will ensure the right candidate is chosen." I studied the requirements. 20 hours per week of community service, mandatory financial counseling, regular progress reports. This feels manipulative. Sometimes people need a structured path back to reality. Professor Brown's voice softened. "Tyler's not the first student I've seen get seduced by the promise of easy money, but he might be one of the few I can still help." My phone buzzed again. "Tyler, please, I messed up. I need your help." "If he finds out we orchestrated this, then he'll learn another valuable lesson about consequences and caring family members." Professor Brown stood, walking to his window. "You know, I had a brother like Tyler. Brilliant, charismatic, always chasing the next big thing. I tried to help him the gentle way. Know where he is now?" I shook my head. "Neither do I. Haven't heard from him in 15 years. He turned back to me. "Sometimes tough love is the only love that works." I picked up the scholarship documents, feeling their weight in more ways than one. "When do we start?" "I'll have my assistant send out the press release tomorrow. Make sure Tyler sees it. Let him think it's his idea to apply." As I stood to leave, Professor Brown added, "Lana, this won't be easy. He might resist, might even hate you for a while when he realizes the truth. He already resents me for being small-town-minded, I replied. At least this way, that resentment might save his future. I pulled out my phone to reply to Tyler. Meet me for coffee tomorrow. I think I found a way to help, a legitimate way. His response came quickly. Thank you. I love you, sis. I stared at those words, remembering the little brother who used to mean them without reservation. I love you too, I typed back. More than you know. The coffee shop near Washington Square Park buzzed with morning energy. Tyler arrived 15 minutes late, designer sunglasses hiding what I suspected were hungover eyes. Sorry, he mumbled, sliding into the seat across from me. Rough night. Another celebration? He winced. Actually, no. Had to liquidate some positions. Market's been challenging. I pushed my phone across the table, the scholarship announcement displayed on the screen. Found this morning. Thought of you. His eyes scanned the text, widening slightly. Full ride at Columbia, with housing? Prestigious, too, only accepting 5 students. I stirred my coffee casually. Professor Brown's on the selection committee. Eric? Tyler sat up straighter. I haven't talked to him since you ghosted his classes? He had the decency to look embarrassed. Yeah, that. The deadline's next week. Requirements are pretty intense, though. Tyler was already scrolling through the details. Community service component, financial literacy certification, weekly progress reports. He frowned. Seems like a lot of hand-holding. It's free money, Ty. Legitimate free money. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, face paling slightly. I need to make a call. Give me a minute. I watched through the window as he paced outside, gesturing animatedly. When he returned, his hands were shaking. Everything okay? Just some investment stuff. He grabbed my coffee, took a long sip. About that scholarship? You really think I have a shot? Professor Brown always said you were one of his best students. Yeah, He trailed off, then pulled out his phone again, this time showing me his trading account. Red numbers filled the screen. I might need a backup plan anyway. How bad is it? Remember that crypto rally last month? I borrowed against my positions to increase exposure, but then the market reversed and... In English, Tyler. He slumped in his chair. I lost everything, more than everything. I'm in debt, bad debt. The kind of debt that has people making threatening phone calls? His silence was answer enough. Apply for the scholarship, I said firmly. Today, now. The community service thing, though? 20 hours a week? When would I have time to trade? Maybe that's the point, to focus on your actual future instead of gambling it away. It's not gambling, he protested, but without his usual conviction. It's calculated risk. How's that working out for you? His phone buzzed again. This time I caught a glimpse of the message. Payment due in 48 hours, or we'll have to take alternative measures. Give me your phone, I said. What? Why? Because you're going to call Professor Brown right now and apologize. Then you're going to ask him about this scholarship personally. Lana, phone now. He handed it over reluctantly. I dialed Professor Brown's number, put it on speaker. Tyler? Professor Brown's voice filled our corner of the cafe. This is unexpected. Professor, Tyler looked at me helplessly. I nodded encouragingly. I messed up, really badly. I'm aware. I saw the scholarship announcement, the redemption scholarship. I know I don't deserve it, after how I left things, but you'd like to apply? Yes, sir, if you'll let me. There was a long pause. The community service component is non-negotiable, as are the financial literacy courses. I understand. And you'll need to maintain a full course load, no more disappearing acts. Yes, sir. Come by my office this afternoon. We'll discuss the details. Another pause. And, Tyler, I'm glad you called. After hanging up, Tyler stared at his empty coffee cup. What if I fail again? Then you fail trying to do something real, instead of failing at get-rich-quick schemes. His phone buzzed once more. This time he turned it off completely. The apartment, he said quietly. The clothes, everything. I'll have to give it all up. The scholarship includes housing, remember? Chelsea won't understand. If she doesn't understand you choosing education over debt, then maybe that's important information too. He nodded slowly, then pulled out his laptop. Help me with the application? I watched as he typed his personal statement, deleting and rewriting sentences, occasionally asking my opinion. For a moment, I saw the old Tyler, the one who used to get excited about economics textbooks and market theory. Lana, he said, not looking up from his screen. Thank you for not giving up on me. I thought about the ring, about Professor Brown's carefully crafted plan, about the web of well-intentioned deception we'd spun around my brother. That's what family does, I replied, and prayed he'd still feel the same way when he eventually discovered the truth. I got it. Tyler's voice exploded through my phone. I actually got it. The scholarship committee just called. I pressed my phone closer to my ear, trying to sound surprised. That's amazing. When do you start? Next week. They're fast-tracking everything because of my situation. His voice dropped slightly. Chelsea left, by the way. Said she didn't sign up for dating a charity case. Her loss. Yeah. He paused. Hey, can you come to my first day at the shelter? The community service part starts tomorrow, and I'm kind of nervous. That wasn't part of the plan. I glanced at the calendar on my wall, at my work schedule. I'll be there. The next morning, I found Tyler standing outside the downtown community center, wearing the only non-designer outfit he had left, jeans and a plain black t-shirt. He looked younger somehow, more vulnerable. Ready? I asked. What if I'm terrible at this? He gestured at the building. I don't know how to help people? I finished for him. Pretty sure that's why they call it learning. Inside, we were greeted by a woman named Maria, the volunteer coordinator. Her eyes crinkled with warmth, but there was steel in her handshake. Tyler, our new scholarship recipient. She looked him over. Perfect timing. We're short-staffed in the financial literacy workshop today. Tyler froze. Workshop? I thought I'd be serving food or something. Oh, you'll do that too. But Professor Brown mentioned your economics background. We have people here who need help understanding basic budgeting, debt management, predatory lending. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Tyler shot me a look that said he caught it too. First group starts in 10 minutes, Maria continued, handing him a folder. Just share what you've learned, especially about what not to do. The classroom was small, filled with about 15 people. Some wore business clothes, others looked like they'd slept rough. All had the same worried look in their eyes that I'd seen in Tyler's lately. Hi, Tyler started awkwardly. I'm Tyler. I'm here to talk about financial responsibility. He laughed nervously, which is kind of funny because 2 weeks ago I lost everything in crypto trading and almost got involved with loan sharks. The room went silent. Then a man in the back spoke up. How much did you lose? Tyler swallowed hard. Everything my sister sacrificed to give me, and then some. What happened? Someone else asked. I thought I was smarter than everyone else. Thought I'd found a shortcut. Tyler's voice grew stronger. Want to know what I learned instead? For the next hour, I watched my brother transform. He broke down complex financial terms into simple language, used his own mistakes as cautionary tales, and actually listened to people's stories. The former investment bros' swagger was gone, replaced by something more genuine. During the break, Maria appeared beside me. He's a natural. He is, isn't he? I blinked back unexpected tears. Professor Brown said this might happen. Said sometimes teaching others helps us learn our own lessons. After the workshop, Tyler was surrounded by participants asking questions, sharing stories. One woman was crying as she thanked him for helping her understand her debt consolidation options. Tyler joined me later, looking dazed. That was intense. Good intense or bad intense? Good. Really good. He ran a hand through his hair. You know what's crazy? Everything I taught them today, about impulse control, about not trusting get-rich-quick schemes, it's all stuff I used to know, before New York made me forget. My phone buzzed with a text from Professor Brown. "How's it going?" "Those people in there," Tyler continued, "they're just like me, trying to fix their mistakes, trying to find their way back." I typed back, "Better than we hoped." "Lana." Tyler's voice was quiet. "I found something in the scholarship paperwork about the selection process." My heart stopped. "Oh?" "Yeah, apparently I was the only applicant who met all the criteria exactly. Almost like," he looked at me carefully, "almost like it was designed for me specifically." I held my breath, waiting for the anger, the accusation. Instead, he hugged me. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not just writing me off, for finding a way to help me help myself." "You knew?" "I figured it out last night. The timing, Professor Brown's involvement, the specific requirements." He pulled back, smiling slightly. "You've always been terrible at subtle. Are you mad?" I was, for about 5 minutes. Then I realized something. He gestured toward the classroom. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't punishment. Sometimes it's giving someone the chance to remember who they really are." I thought about the ring, about all the anger that had driven my initial plan for revenge. Somehow, watching Tyler connect with people who needed his help had transformed that anger into something else, something better. "Ready for tomorrow's session?" I asked. "Actually," he grinned, "I have some ideas for improving the program." "You can't just give up." Chelsea's voice echoed through the community center hallway. "This isn't you, Tyler." I rounded the corner to find them facing off near the classroom, where Tyler was supposed to be teaching his financial literacy workshop in 5 minutes. Chelsea looked exactly as she had in the luxury apartment, designer everything, but Tyler stood his ground in his now familiar jeans and t-shirt. "Actually, this is me," he said quietly. "The other guy, the one throwing money around and making crazy promises, that was the fake version. The fake version could afford me." Several heads poked out of the classroom, drawn by the commotion. I recognized some of Tyler's regular students, including Maria, who started to move toward them. "I've got this," I told her softly. Chelsea spotted me. "Oh, perfect, the puppet master herself. Did you enjoy destroying your brother's future?" "My future's fine," Tyler cut in. "Better than fine. I'm back in school, my grades are great, and I'm actually helping people." "You're working in a homeless shelter." "Community center," Tyler corrected. "Teaching financial literacy to people who need it. You know, like I needed it 2 months ago when I was about to lose everything." "But what about us? Our plans?" "Your plans," Tyler said. "Your vision of what my life should look like." "I never wanted the penthouse or the yacht parties. I just thought I needed them to keep you." I watched my brother, seeing how straight he stood now, how clear his eyes were. No more designer sunglasses hiding hangovers. "Miss?" a small voice interrupted. An elderly woman from Tyler's class approached Chelsea. "Are you the girlfriend he told us about? The one who helped him spend all that borrowed money?" Chelsea's face reddened. "I didn't make him do anything." "No, but you sure enjoyed the benefits," Tyler said. "Where were you when the debt collector started calling?" "I'm not having this conversation here." Chelsea straightened her Gucci bag. "When you come to your senses, call me. The real you knows where to find me." "The real me is standing right here," Tyler called after her retreating form. "Teaching starts in 2 minutes if you want to learn something." She didn't turn back. Tyler slumped against the wall once she was gone. "Well, that happened. You okay?" "Weirdly? Yeah." He straightened up, checking his notes. "Today's lesson is actually about emotional spending and toxic financial relationships. How's that for timing?" Inside the classroom, his students were waiting. Over the past few weeks, the group had grown. Word had spread about the young former trader who taught finance through brutal honesty about his own mistakes. "Sorry about that scene," Tyler addressed the room. "Though it does lead perfectly into today's topic, how our relationships affect our financial decisions." "Was that really your ex?" someone asked. "Yep. And a perfect example of what we're discussing." Tyler grabbed a marker, wrote "financial red flags in relationships" on the whiteboard. Let's talk about warning signs I completely missed while trying to live up to someone else's expectations. For the next hour, I watched from the back as Tyler transformed his fresh heartbreak into a powerful lesson. He broke down how toxic relationships can lead to toxic finances, using his own story as a case study. The class was more engaged than ever, sharing their own experiences, asking questions. Remember, Tyler concluded, true support isn't about enabling harmful behaviors. Sometimes real love means calling someone out on their mistakes, or even setting up an elaborate scholarship scheme to save them from themselves. The class laughed, several people glancing my way. Speaking of which, he continued, I have an announcement. Professor Brown has approved my proposal to expand this program. Starting next month, we'll be offering evening classes for working people and a weekend workshop for teens. The room erupted in applause. Maria, who had slipped in during the lesson, beamed from her corner. After class, Tyler was surrounded by his usual crowd of people asking questions and sharing stories. I overheard him telling one young man, "Trust me, if I can turn it around, anyone can." "Hey, sis," he caught up with me later. "Want to grab coffee? I need your help with something." At the coffee shop, he pulled out a familiar folder, his scholarship paperwork. "So I've been thinking," he said, flipping through pages. "This redemption scholarship, other people could benefit from it too. Not just spoiled little brothers who lose their sister's engagement ring money." "What are you suggesting?" "I want to make it real. Not just our elaborate revenge scheme, but an actual ongoing program." His eyes lit up with the same enthusiasm he used to show for trading. "Professor Brown's already on board. We just need to figure out the funding." "Tyler, I know, no get-rich-quick schemes." He grinned. "But what about get other people on track slow schemes? I've got some ideas." Looking at him then, I realized our revenge plan had backfired in the best possible way. Instead of just teaching Tyler a lesson, we'd given him a purpose. "Mom's going to kill us both," Tyler said, pacing Professor Brown's office. "She's flying in tomorrow for the ceremony, and we still haven't told her anything." "Told her what?" I looked up from the scholarship program brochures we'd been reviewing. "That her son is graduating with honors? That he's turned the community center program into a success story? That this whole thing was an elaborate setup?" He ran his hands through his hair. "That her children conspired to manipulate." "To save," Professor Brown interrupted, not looking up from his desk. "The word you're looking for is save." A knock at the door made us all jump. Maria entered, carrying a stack of papers. "Latest numbers from the center," she announced. "We've helped 37 people avoid bankruptcy this month alone. 15 have started savings accounts. And that teenage program Tyler started? 3 of them just got college acceptance letters." Tyler stopped pacing. "Really? Which ones?" "Marcus, Jenna, and that quiet kid? David? The one who reminded you of yourself?" I watched my brother's face light up. 6 months ago, he'd been the one needing help. Now he was changing lives. "See?" I said. "That's what we're telling Mom." "Speaking of mothers," Professor Brown finally looked up. "Yours is currently in the reception area." "What?" Tyler and I said in unison. "She arrived early, wanted to surprise you." He pressed his intercom. "Send her in, please." Mom walked in, looking exactly like she had the day I'd told her I was selling my ring, worried but trying to hide it. She hugged Tyler first, then me. "I thought I'd come see where all the magic happens," she said, looking around the office. Then she spotted the brochures on the table. "The Redemption Scholarship? That's the one you got, right, Tyler?" Tyler shot me a panicked look. "Mrs. Holmes," Professor Brown stood. "Please, sit down. There's something we should discuss." Over the next 20 minutes, we told her everything. The Instagram posts that had tipped me off, the gambling losses, the fake scholarship designed specifically for Tyler. With each revelation, her face grew more serious. When we finished, the silence was deafening. "Mom," Tyler's voice cracked. "Say something." She turned to Professor Brown. "This scholarship, it wasn't real. The money was real. The opportunity was real. The competition," he smiled slightly, "was carefully curated." "And you knew about this?" She looked at me. "I helped plan it. I admitted. I was so angry about the ring money, about Tyler throwing away his chance. I wanted revenge, but then it turned into something else. Show her, Tyler said suddenly. Show me what? Tyler pulled up a video on his phone. It was from last week's graduation ceremony at the community center. 15 people receiving certificates from the financial literacy program. Tyler beaming as he handed them out. These people, he explained, they all have stories like mine. Bad decisions, wrong turns, but they're turning it around. He swallowed hard. Because of what you taught me, Mom, about not giving up on people, about how sometimes love looks like tough choices. Mom's eyes welled up. And the ring money? I reached into my bag, pulled out an envelope. This is from Tyler's first teaching stipend at the center. It's not the full amount yet, but I'm paying her back, Tyler cut in. Every penny. And then we're using the rest to fund real scholarships for people who need second chances. Mom was quiet for a long moment. Then she started laughing. Mom? I exchanged worried looks with Tyler. I'm sorry, she wiped her eyes. It's just... Do you remember when you two were little? How you'd always scheme together? Build elaborate traps for the tooth fairy? This was a little bigger than the tooth fairy, Mom, Tyler said. But the result is the same. She stood, hugging us both. You worked together to create something good, even if the method was unconventional. So you're not mad? I asked. Mad? My son is graduating with honors, teaching others, and my daughter... She touched my cheek. You turned revenge into redemption. How could I be mad about that? Professor Brown cleared his throat. If I might interrupt this lovely moment, Tyler, you have a class to teach, and there's someone special waiting to enroll. We all turned to see Chelsea in the doorway, looking very different from the last time I'd seen her. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup. She shifted uncomfortably. I lost everything in that last crypto crash. Turns out I needed those lessons too. Tyler looked at me, then at Mom, then back at Chelsea. Class starts in 10 minutes, he said professionally. We have a strict policy about being on time. As Chelsea hurried off, Mom squeezed both our hands. Now, about tomorrow's graduation ceremony. Actually, Tyler grinned, there's one more surprise we haven't told you about. The graduation hall buzzed with excitement as Professor Brown approached the podium. Mom squeezed my hand as we sat in the front row, watching Tyler fidget with his graduation cap backstage. Today, Professor Brown began, we celebrate not just academic achievement, but personal transformation. Our valedictorian embodies the spirit of redemption, of turning mistakes into stepping stones. I spotted Chelsea in the back row, now one of Tyler's most dedicated students at the community center. She caught my eye and nodded slightly. But before we hear from him, Professor Brown continued, there's a special announcement. The Redemption Scholarship, which began as a unique intervention for one student, has received full funding for the next 5 years. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Tyler's head snapped up. Thanks to a generous donation from an anonymous benefactor, Professor Brown's eyes met mine, we will offer 5 full scholarships annually to students who demonstrate both academic potential and a commitment to community service. Mom turned to me. Anonymous benefactor? I touched my ring finger, now bare but somehow feeling lighter than it had in years. The jewelry appraiser finally found the right buyer, for twice what we expected. Lana? The money was always meant for education, I said. Now it'll help more people than just Tyler. Professor Brown gestured to the side stage. And now, our valedictorian, Tyler Holmes. Tyler stepped up to the podium, looking nothing like the lost boy from that Manhattan apartment. His speech cards trembled slightly as he set them down. When I first came to New York, he started, I thought success meant fancy apartments and expensive clothes. I confused wealth with worth. He paused, finding my eyes in the crowd. My sister taught me differently, through a scheme that probably broke several laws of sibling ethics. Laughter rippled through the audience. But here's what I learned. Sometimes the people who love you most will go to extreme lengths to save you from yourself. And sometimes, the revenge they plan turns into the redemption you need. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. My breath caught. In this box is a ring, not the original one my sister sacrificed for me. That ring is now funding futures for others who need second chances. This is a different ring, a smaller one, bought with my first real paycheck from teaching. He opened the box, revealing a simple silver band with a small diamond. This ring represents my promise, not just to my sister, but to everyone who believes in second chances. A promise to keep teaching, to keep learning, and to remember that true worth isn't in what we have, but in what we give back. He stepped down from the podium, walked to where I sat, and held out the box. "I can't replace what you lost," he said softly, "but I can honor what you taught me." Through tears, I saw Mom pulling out her phone, recording everything. Professor Brown was beaming. Even Chelsea was wiping her eyes. "You know this doesn't make us even," I managed to say as I took the box. "I know." Tyler grinned. "That's why I also registered for a lifetime of Big Brother duties at the community center. Maria's already got me scheduled through next summer." Professor Brown returned to the podium. "And now I'm pleased to introduce our first official class of Redemption Scholars." 5 students stood up throughout the audience, including David, the quiet kid who reminded Tyler of himself. Each of them had a story of failure and recovery. Each of them had found their way to Tyler's financial literacy classes. "Sometimes revenge backfires," I whispered to Mom as Tyler returned to his seat among the graduates. "In the best possible way." "It wasn't revenge," she whispered back. "It was love. Complicated, slightly illegal love, but love nonetheless." After the ceremony, as we gathered for photos, Tyler pulled me aside. "Remember what you said when you first found me in that apartment, about trust and responsibility?" I nodded. "You were right, but not in the way you meant to be." He gestured around at the celebrating graduates, at his students from the community center, at the new Redemption Scholars. "You trusted me to find my way back. Even when your plan was about revenge, some part of you trusted that I could be better." "And the responsibility part?" "Turns out teaching others about responsibility taught me more than losing everything did." He straightened his cap. "Ready to go change more lives?" I slipped on the new ring, smaller than the old one, but somehow meaning more. "Lead the way, Professor." As we walked toward the reception, where Professor Brown was already discussing next semester's programs with Maria, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about getting better and helping others do the same. Tyler bumped my shoulder. "Race you to the cake?" Just like that, we were kids again. Running, laughing, scheming, but this time for all the right reasons.
A cold wind marking the end of autumn swept through the streets of Brookline, a suburb of Boston. In her Georgian-style mansion nestled in this upscale neighborhood, Catherine Morrison was absorbed in putting the finishing touches on a handmade necklace. Her delicate fingers carefully combined freshwater pearls and rose quartz. Her technique revealed both the pride of a craftsperson and the sensitivity of an artist. "Almost done," she whispered just as the doorbell rang. "Mother-in-law again." Catherine tensed instinctively. Marian Hastings' visits had become routine, occurring 2 or 3 times a week. Each time, she would rearrange the household furnishings, override instructions to the servants, and gradually squeeze Catherine's space smaller and smaller. As expected, the maid showed in Marian, dressed in a Chanel tweed suit with a Hermes scarf at her neck. Her very posture exuded the pride of being born into one of Boston's oldest families. "Catherine, I have important social matters to discuss today." Marian gracefully took a seat, placing her expensive handbag on a chair by the fireplace. Catherine hastily began clearing away her jewelry-making tools. "Oh, never mind those little handmade toys. This is about the charity event at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum." At the words "handmade toys," Catherine inwardly smiled wryly. Her business, Treasured Gems, was a well-regarded handmade jewelry shop on Newbury Street. It was work she took pride in, built on skills and artistic sense she had taught herself after growing up in a working-class family. Catherine's parents ran a small grocery store in the Boston suburbs. Though not wealthy, she had grown up in a loving home and developed values that placed family bonds above all else. Those values were being tested bit by bit in her current life. "By the way, when is Alex coming home?" Marian asked. "I'm not sure. He's been coming home late recently." Catherine had come to accept her husband Alex's absence as a matter of course. A senior analyst at a major Boston securities firm, he was a brilliant man with both a Harvard degree and an MBA. He appeared to be the ideal gentleman, competent at work. Catherine still vividly remembers their meeting 3 years ago at the upscale restaurant, Le Maison, on Newbury Street. She was there for a friend's birthday when Alex, who had just finished dining with clients, happened to be seated at the next table. He struck up a conversation after noticing the handmade necklace she was wearing. That night, Alex was drawn to Catherine's refined aesthetic sense and sincere personality, while Catherine was captivated by his intellectual charm and gentlemanly manner. They became engaged after 6 months of dating. At the time, Marian said, "I've gained a lovely daughter," while secretly opposing it fiercely. For her, who claimed descent from Mayflower passengers and was a pillar of Boston society, a daughter-in-law from the working class was hard to accept. 3 years into the marriage, life appeared peaceful on the surface. However, anxiety was growing inside Catherine's heart. Visits to her family home were gradually restricted, and contact with old friends diminished. Alex came home later and later, and even weekends became times of absence, justified by work. The changes in her husband had come gradually. Initially, Alex would visit Catherine's shop on holidays and show interest in her work, but now he had come to dismiss her work as just a hobby. Behind this shift was always Marian's influence. Alex's submissive attitude toward his mother's words might have been a habit from childhood. Marian, who had taken over after her investment banker husband's death and was known publicly as a society figure devoted to charity work, harbored a cruel and controlling nature beneath the surface. Her obsession with family lineage and social status manifested as excessive expectations for her son. Catherine gazed out the window. Golden ginkgo leaves were falling in the street. She felt as if her once free life was quietly slipping away like those leaves. However, deep in her heart lay hidden strength. Though gentle and reserved by nature, she could face unreasonable situations with firm resolve. That strength would become a small ray of hope for the trials ahead. Continued in next part due to length. In the spring of their 2nd year of marriage, Catherine confirmed her long-awaited pregnancy. Tears of joy filled her eyes as she looked at the 2 lines on the pregnancy test in the morning silence. The cherry tree visible from Treasured Gems Atelier was dancing with pale pink petals. The scene was filled with hope for the new life about to begin. That evening, when she quietly told Alex upon his return home, he showed rare emotion and embraced her. "I'm going to be a father." Those words carried a warmth unimaginable from his usual cool demeanor. Catherine caught a glimpse, if only for a moment, of the gentle Alex from their early marriage. However, that happy moment would be enveloped in an subtle atmosphere with Marian's arrival. The next day, Marian arrived earlier than usual, carrying an expensive bouquet of ranunculus. Her perfect Hermès scarf and Chanel tweed suit embodied her position as a pillar of Boston society. After words of congratulations, Catherine, came words that seemed to determine the future. It must be a boy, of course. The Hastings heir. We must raise the child to be worthy of our lineage. For prep school, it must be Phillips Academy. Then Harvard. It's our family tradition. The tiny life in Catherine's womb was barely a few centimeters long, yet its life path was already being decided. The historic buildings along the Charles River, Harvard Yard, these images were already being painted as the future of her unborn child. After the pregnancy was confirmed, Marian's controlling attitude intensified further. It began with the designation of the hospital. Massachusetts General Hospital is the only option. A child of this family needs the finest medical care. The most historic private hospital in Boston. Its white buildings held a history of generations of Boston Brahmins being born there. Marian arranged for a personally trusted nurse, Lucy Parker. The experienced nurse in her late 40s always showed a submissive attitude before Marian. Catherine found strange the shadow that occasionally flickered in her eyes. Marian always accompanied her to prenatal checkups. Her mother-in-law's presence invaded even the most private space of the examination room. It was Marian who received all explanations about Catherine's condition and the fetus's status directly from Nurse Lucy. Catherine felt as if she were becoming a transparent existence. "Catherine, I've told your parents not to come for a while," Marian announced one day as if it were perfectly natural. The family ring passed down through generations gleamed on her hand as she held an expensive teacup. "We don't want unnecessary stress from people who don't understand this family's dignity. You understand that's best for the baby, don't you?" Catherine could only nod silently. Her parents, working at their grocery store, were overjoyed about their first grandchild. They called every weekend to check on the baby. Her mother was knitting tiny socks, and her father was crafting a wooden chair for the baby. However, even these expressions of love gradually faded under Marian's cold gaze. Alex's returns home became even later as the pregnancy progressed. His figure in expensive suits became increasingly distant to Catherine. "I need to earn more, especially during this important time," he would make excuses, while being absent even on holidays for work. His words of concern for Catherine's condition grew fewer day by day. She spent more nights alone, feeling the baby's movements while staring at the ceiling. As autumn deepened, Catherine's labor began under the trees of Boston Common, now tinged with fall colors. During the 12 hours of difficult labor, Alex was absent. In the middle of an important deal, was his reason. It was Nurse Lucy who held Catherine's hand in the delivery room. "Just a little more, just a little more." There was something unsettling in that voice. The white ceiling, the smell of disinfectant. The regular beeping of the heart monitor. These all blurred together in Catherine's consciousness. Just after midnight, the baby finally cried out. Outside the window, the autumn wind rattled the hospital's old window panes. "It's a girl." At that announcement, a new nurse witnessed Marian's expression cloud over in the waiting room. Her fingers gripped her expensive suit collar tightly, seeming to betray anger. But at that moment, Catherine was filled with joy as she held her child. The small but definite weight of life. The slightly opened eyes looked just like Catherine's. "Emma," Catherine whispered. Her grandmother's name. At that moment, moonlight streaming into the hospital room gently illuminated the baby's cheeks. However, this happy moment didn't last long. 2 days after the birth, Nurse Lucy visited the hospital room. Her expression carried a dark shadow. The sound of expensive leather shoes creaking on the hospital floor brought an ominous feeling. "Mrs. Morrison, we need to talk." What was revealed then was shocking. The baby shows signs of possible developmental disabilities. Catherine held her child tightly. There were no specific explanations for her question, "What symptoms?" Just a string of vague words. No presentation of test results showing medical evidence. Lucy's gaze was constantly directed toward Marion, who stood in the corner of the room. Marion, who was present for this announcement, sighed with an expression that seemed to say, "As expected." Her reaction was as if she had anticipated something. Her fingers unconsciously fiddled with her expensive pearl necklace, betraying her inner agitation. Outside the window, the deepening autumn rain fell quietly. In the heavy atmosphere of the hospital room, Emma was breathing peacefully. Catherine, gripping her child's tiny hand, sensed the trials that were about to begin. However, at that time, no one could imagine the magnitude of the crisis that her beloved daughter would face. 2 weeks after leaving the hospital, on an early October morning, Marion suddenly proposed a trip to their Berkshire villa. In the drawing room of the Brookline mansion, shrouded in morning mist, she spoke with unusual gentleness. "Catherine, you need a change of environment. The mountain air would be very good for the baby." Those words carried a kindness unprecedented from her. Yet deep in Catherine's heart, she couldn't shake an eerie feeling. Holding Emma, she looked out the window. The leaves beginning to change color with the deepening autumn swayed like an ominous premonition. But Emma is still. Mid-sentence, she saw Marion's expression contort for just a moment. But she quickly covered it with a smile. "Don't worry. I've arranged everything." It was said as if it were already a decided matter. On the way to the Berkshires, Catherine held Emma in the back seat of the luxury SUV. In the front passenger seat, Marion kept giving detailed instructions to the driver, while Alex stared at his smartphone next to them. Occasionally typing emails for what he called final confirmation of an important deal. He never once looked at his wife and child. After about 3 hours, the car wound its way up a remote mountain road. As they threaded between mountains spectacular with autumn colors, suddenly a luxurious mountain villa appeared. The imposing 3-story building exuded dignity like a European castle. "This is the Hastings family summer retreat. It has over 100 years of history." Marion's voice carried obvious pride. Entering the grounds, they could see the sheer cliff behind the building. Beyond the deep valley stretched mountains dyed in autumn colors. A beautiful view, but its depth was enough to send chills down one's spine. Even after arriving at the villa, Marion continued issuing rapid-fire instructions. Room arrangements, meal times, walking routes. Everything was decided according to her will. Catherine's opinion was never sought once. "Emma, it's okay. Mama will protect you." While soothing Emma in the bedroom, Catherine whispered softly. The baby seemed very healthy, contrary to the hospital's diagnosis. There were no signs of the possible developmental disabilities that Nurse Lucy had mentioned. Rather, Emma's eyes were full of curiosity, responding sensitively to surrounding sounds and light. As dusk approached, the villa was bathed in orange sunlight. Under the cloudless sky, the autumn-colored trees seemed to shine in the sunset. In the living room lined with luxurious furnishings, Catherine was smiling gently at Emma. That's when it happened. Enough of this charade. Catherine shuddered at the sudden shout. Turning around, she saw Marian glaring like a leopard. Her expensive tweed suit appeared blood-red in the sunset light. It's unthinkable to welcome a disabled grandchild into this family. Marian advanced with an expression transformed as if she were a different person. Her eyes showed madness that had been hidden until now. Anything that taints the Hastings bloodline should disappear. In the next instant, Marian snatched Emma from Catherine's arms. Caught off guard by the unexpected action, Catherine froze for a moment. In her body, not yet fully recovered from childbirth, she desperately tried to follow. "Give Emma back. Please." Her anguished cry echoed through the villa's grand hall. Catherine stumbled and fell onto the expensive Persian carpet. Beside her, Alex remained deeply seated in his leather chair, smoking a cigar. "Mother is right. This is the best solution." His voice held not a trace of its former warmth. The pale cigar smoke wavered in the evening air. Marian threw open the glass doors leading to the wide terrace and headed straight for the cliff's edge. The clear autumn air rushed into the room. "Goodbye, you were never meant to be part of the Hastings family." Catherine tried to crawl forward. But her legs wouldn't obey. Marian's arm rose. Emma's tiny body was silhouetted against the sunset. "Emma!" Catherine's scream echoed through the deep valley. The cry gradually weakened, reverberating multiple times through the valley. The autumn-colored trees swayed in the wind, spreading an unfeelingly beautiful evening scene. The small life thrown toward the cliff bottom disappeared into the autumn sunset. Marian's profile, gripping the terrace railing, cast an eerie shadow in the sunset light. Only the smoke from Alex's cigar wavered quietly in the still air. Immediately after Emma disappeared over the cliff, Catherine's trembling hand dialed 911. Trying to explain the situation to the operator, she couldn't form words properly. "The baby, my mother-in-law threw the baby from the cliff, please, help." Through tear-blurred vision, Marian and Alex were already gone. Only the sound of a luxury car's engine broke the evening silence as it drove away. Leaving behind the cold words, "We'll explain to the police ourselves." Berkshire County Police and local rescue teams arrived one after another with sirens wailing. In an instant, the quiet villa became chaotic. Rescue team leader Jim Collins immediately grasped the situation and requested a helicopter. In this season, when autumn days end early, time was short. "Prepare the lighting equipment. Medical team on standby." Instructions flew back and forth. Police set up tape around the villa and began their investigation. Catherine, wrapped in a blanket from the paramedics, stared blankly at the cliff bottom. "Ma'am, could you tell us the details once more?" a detective gently asked. Behind him, the gardener Thomas Wilson had begun giving important testimony. "I was working in the greenhouse. I saw everything through the window. The night deepened. Search floodlights illuminated the valley as rescue team members carefully descended. The helicopter's searchlight swept across the valley. Catherine's heart continued to race along with Emma's name. Near dawn, a sudden phone call. It was from Marion. "Catherine. It's terrible." Her voice was trembling. From emotional turmoil, or was it acting? The baby falling from the cliff was an accident. "I lost my balance. Everyone should think it was a sad accident." From the other end of the phone, local news breaking news could be heard. At the news flash, infant found at Berkshire Cliff, miraculously unharmed, Marion's voice suddenly changed. "Yes, it was an accident. I just..." However, the truth was already becoming clear. Gardner Thomas had witnessed the entire incident from the greenhouse. Moreover, the villa's security cameras had recorded the decisive moment. The events on the terrace, Alex's cold attitude as he watched while smoking a cigar, everything had been recorded. And the miracle came with dawn. A local mountain climber out for an early morning walk heard a baby's cry from among the dense trees. Emma was caught about 30 feet down the cliff, protected as if by thick undergrowth and soft young tree branches. "I hear a baby crying. Over here." The rescue team carefully approached. Emma was miraculously unharmed. Her small body was without a scratch, as if protected by angels. Detailed examinations at Massachusetts General Hospital found no abnormalities. Rather, her development was ahead of her age. The possibility of developmental disabilities that Nurse Lucy had claimed was revealed to be a complete fabrication. And as the police investigation continued, the full extent of the horrifying plan came to light. Lucy Parker, unable to bear the weight of her conscience, confessed. "Mrs. Hastings offered me $500,000 in hush money to make a false diagnosis." Her testimony led to even more shocking revelations. Alex had a mistress from another prominent Boston family, Caroline Winslow. They had already been secretly living together in a luxury apartment in Back Bay. The plan had been meticulous. Marion and Alex had crafted a perfect scheme to drive Catherine away. They would fabricate the fact that she had given birth to a disabled child, break her down mentally, and finally make it appear as if she had killed her child due to postpartum depression. Alex had even arranged to remarry Caroline. Lucy's confession illuminated a bottomless darkness. The white corridors of the expensive hospital, the elegant villa, the perfect appearances. Behind them all, an incredible conspiracy had been unfolding. "I'm so deeply sorry for what I did to Mrs. Morrison and her daughter." As Lucy tearfully apologized in the examination room, warm autumn sunlight streamed through the window. Emma slept peacefully in her mother's arms, bathed in that light. It was as if her angelic innocence was illuminating the darkness of this world. On the day the verdict was delivered in the stately courtroom of Berkshire County Court, golden sunlight filtered through the high windows. Defendant Marion Hastings, attempted murder. Defendant Alex Hastings, conspiracy and obstruction of rescue. Defendant Lucy Parker, falsification of medical records. As the judge's voice resonated, Catherine held Emma close. Her 3-month-old daughter's cheeks were touched with a healthy pink glow. Marion had lost her former dignity and hung her head. Her luxury brand suit now seemed hollow. Alex accepted his sentence without showing any emotion until the end. Lucy, from her guilty conscience, had admitted her crimes and received consideration in sentencing. In the divorce proceedings, Catherine was granted full custody. Furthermore, she received substantial compensation and child support, along with the Berkshire villa where the incident had taken place. It's finally over. As she left the courthouse, Catherine felt a strange lightness in her heart. As the truth came to light, her story garnered significant attention. The Boston Globe was the first to run a feature article, followed by national media. On social media, the hashtag #StandWithCatherine spread rapidly. Treasured Gems was flooded with orders from across the country, along with messages of support. Catherine's handmade jewelry became more than just accessories, they became symbols of women's strength and dignity. Each piece contains our story. Her words in an interview resonated with many people. The small shop on Newbury Street expanded into an online store, receiving orders from around the world. Catherine decided to transform the Berkshire Villa into a support facility for mothers and children. Named Emma's Haven, it became a shelter for mothers and children in difficult situations. The former site of tragedy was transformed into a place of hope. Mama, look! On the day Emma took her first steps, Catherine's parents were there too. The family grocery store had become Emma's favorite place. She smiled happily, sitting in the wooden chair her grandfather had made, wearing the sweater her grandmother had knitted. True happiness isn't about family lineage or social status. One evening, Catherine whispered while watching the setting sun through the shop window. New necklaces were displayed on the counter. Each gem sparkled in the sunset light, suggesting the beginning of a new story. That day, many mothers and daughters visited Treasured Gems. Catherine smiled quietly as she listened to their conversations. In the soft light flowing through the store, Emma sparkled like a jewel. The future shone with certainty, along with this small life. My name is Catherine Wilson. As I sit here in this luxury hotel lobby holding my son Lucas's hand, I'm remembering that day. The stillness of the lobby, surrounded by massive marble columns, makes our heartbeats seem louder. As a curator at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, I was living a fulfilling life. It was on a spring afternoon, while I was immersed in planning an Italian Renaissance exhibition, that I met Robert. A senior investment manager at Goldman Sachs, he was participating in a special corporate tour. It was a particularly memorable group, and I found myself excited by the participants' genuine interest in art and their thoughtful questions. Your explanation of Botticelli's brushwork was fascinating, especially your insights about the portrayal of flowers in Primavera, Robert approached me after the tour. With his distinguished features and navy suit, he was the epitome of sophistication. His deep knowledge of art captivated me. I can still remember the sparkle in his eyes as we discussed Caravaggio's use of light and shadow. Our subsequent conversation at the cafe seemed to stretch into eternity. Having studied in Florence, Robert possessed extensive knowledge of Italian Renaissance art. His analysis of the Medici family's patronage and the economic influences on art was both sharp and poetic. I was deeply impressed that an investment banker could have such a sensitive understanding of art. Our courtship was like something from a movie. Special exhibitions at New York's Metropolitan Museum, Vacation in Paris, Boston Symphony Orchestra concerts. I still vividly remember the warmth of his hand as he gently held mine while listening to Mahler's Symphony No. 2, Resurrection. His cultivation and thoughtfulness completely won my heart. Our wedding at a historic church in Beacon Hill was like a fairy tale. Sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows onto my pure white wedding dress felt like an angel's blessing. We exchanged vows of eternal love as the majestic sound of the pipe organ filled the cathedral. Our new life in a penthouse in Manhattan's upscale residential district exceeded my imagination. The spacious living room windows offered a panoramic view of Central Park's greenery. The walls were adorned with Robert's collection of Impressionist works, creating a space like a private museum. On weekends, we'd select organic ingredients from the neighborhood Whole Foods and cook together. Those evenings discussing art over wine were precious moments of happiness. We were the talk of society circles, regularly invited to charity events and opera premieres, highly regarded as patrons of the arts. Then Lucas was born, the crystallization of our love. Watching our son grasp tiny paintbrushes and create his colorful world brought Robert and me infinite joy. I especially treasured the moments when Robert would gently explain art books to our son. On his 4th birthday, I gave Lucas a teddy bear named Mr. Brown. He immediately took to the lovable brown-furred stuffed animal with its endearing expression. This special teddy bear, found at Harrods in London, was a handcrafted treasure. Mr. Brown is my best friend. We'll be together forever and ever, Lucas would say with a smile that was my greatest treasure in this world. Every night, I felt enveloped in happiness watching my son sleep while hugging Mr. Brown. However, that happiness wasn't destined to last forever. Changes crept into our lives slowly but surely. Looking back now, it started with subtle signs that I should have noticed. One day, I became concerned when I saw Lucas's artwork from his painting class. His pictures, usually full of bright colors, gradually began incorporating darker tones. He started clutching Mr. Brown more tightly, and his body would slightly tremble at the sound of his father's voice. I sometimes wonder if I should have taken those subtle signs more seriously back then. But that's just hindsight prayer-like regret. Yes, something was definitely stirring beneath the surface of our glamorous married life. The changes began around Lucas's 2nd birthday. At first, it manifested as control in the name of love. "Catherine, you should quit your museum job. Shouldn't you be spending that time with Lucas?" Robert said one night while swirling his wine. His hand lacked its usual grace. When I tried to discuss our son's education, his eyes had already turned cold. "Why don't you understand? You need to become a full-time housewife to build a perfect family." Those words carried the weight of a final decision. When I tried to object, an expensive wine glass was thrown against the wall, leaving crimson spatters on the white surface. The shock left me speechless. A few weeks later, I left the museum. My colleagues were surprised and sorry to see me go. The director especially expressed concern about my departure in the middle of planning the Italian Renaissance exhibition. But Robert's persuasion was skillful. "We're making this decision considering my wife's health. I hope you can understand." His words were accompanied by his usual gentlemanly smile. On the surface, we appeared to be the ideal couple. After leaving my job, my range of activities gradually became restricted. Lunch plans with friends required detailed reports. A monitoring app was installed on my phone to track my location constantly. Credit card statements were checked daily, with harsh interrogations following any suspicious expenses. "This is for your own good. I'm protecting you," Robert would say, gripping my shoulder hard enough to leave bruises. Lucas responded sensitively to these changes. He began having more nightmares and wouldn't let go of Mr. Brown. His preschool teacher reported, "He's been using darker colors more frequently during art time." One day, I froze when I saw my son's drawing. A large shadow drawn in black crayon seemed to be chasing a small figure. Next to it, Mr. Brown was depicted reaching out a gentle hand. The violence welled up like a spring, gradually gaining momentum. What started as aggression toward objects eventually turned into direct violence against me. It began with something trivial. One day when dinner preparation was running late, Robert's anger became uncontrollable. My arm, slammed against the kitchen counter, bore a deep purple bruise for days. "Don't tell anyone. No one would believe you anyway," his words contained a cruel truth. Who would believe in the violence lurking beneath the mask of Goldman Sachs's skilled investment manager, the gentleman known as an art enthusiast, the socially conscious philanthropist? The examination at Massachusetts General Hospital was conducted discreetly. Though the doctor gave me a skeptical look at my explanation of falling down the stairs, there was no further questioning. The medical report recorded it just as I'd said. Security cameras multiplied throughout the house. Under the pretext of security, my every move was monitored. The maid was obligated to report on my activities when I went out. The driver was instructed to report all destinations. One night, I woke to Lucas's crying. When I rushed to his bedroom, he was trembling, clutching Mr. Brown tightly. "Daddy was in my scary dream." Those words solidified my resolve. Shortly after, I began secretly searching domestic violence websites. Using the library's computer, I created a personal email address and started collecting evidence. Photos of arm bruises with dates were saved in a hidden folder on my smartphone. Screenshots of threatening emails. Records of unauthorized withdrawals from my bank account. Copies of medical reports. Recordings of verbal abuse. All were carefully encrypted and backed up to the cloud. But the safest storage place turned out to be unexpected, inside Mr. Brown's back zipper. It was the safest place because my son carried it everywhere. I carefully placed waterproofed evidence inside the stuffed animal. "Mr. Brown is our guardian angel," I whispered while stroking my sleeping son's cheek. Ironically, the teddy bear carrying records of violence had become our hope. Looking at my transformed husband, I wondered, was that cultured gentleman I met at the museum just a mask? Or had something changed him? I later learned that Robert's father had also been violent. The cycle of violence passing through generations. When I learned this, I felt strongly that I had to break this chain for Lucas's sake. Someone who can save us must be out there somewhere. That belief alone sustains me now. We wait with the evidence sleeping inside Mr. Brown. Hope was found in an unexpected place. One Saturday afternoon, I couldn't have imagined that meeting Susan Parker at Lucas's art class would change our lives. She was the artist who ran the class, with a warm personality that naturally opened children's hearts. "Mrs. Wilson, could we talk for a moment?" Susan invited me to a corner after that day's lesson. The evening light streaming through the window softly illuminated her face. On the desk lay a drawing Lucas had made. "I'd like to talk about this picture." Dark colors spread across the entire paper. In the center, a small human figure seemed to be chased by a large shadow. And in the corner, a brown teddy bear was drawn as if watching over the scene. My heart began racing. "I was once in your position," Susan's quiet confession brought tears to my eyes. 15 years ago, she too had been a victim of domestic violence. Now she works as an art therapist at a DV shelter. "You're not alone. There are people who will help you." Those words seeped into my heart like opening a long-closed door. After that, we carefully maintained contact. A new email address created from the library computer. Brief calls from public phones. And conversations at Lucas's art class, a place no one would suspect. Through Susan, I gradually learned about support networks. The existence of DV shelters. Pro bono lawyers. Psychological counselors. And other women with similar experiences. But no one might believe me. When I expressed my anxiety, Susan answered gently but firmly. "That's exactly why evidence is important. What you've collected is very valuable. The evidence hidden inside Mr. Brown. It was meant to be the key to our future." The escape plan was meticulously crafted. The timing would coincide with Robert's Chicago business trip. 3 days of freedom would be our chance to open the door to a new life. Preparations were made with utmost caution. First, the passports. I timed retrieving mine and Lucas's passports from the safe in Robert's study for when he was in a drunken sleep. Ironically, the combination was our wedding anniversary. Preparing cash required even more caution. A little at a time from weekly grocery money. Inflating amounts on luxury supermarket receipts and saving the difference. I learned tricks for evading credit card history checks from the support group. Documents were gradually copied and stored in a library locker. Birth certificate, marriage certificate, school records, medical records. And the photos and audio recordings of domestic violence were encrypted and backed up to the cloud. The evidence in Mr. Brown remained our trump card. Susan provided a new cell phone. With a prepaid SIM, there was no worry about tracking. I memorized all emergency contacts. The shelter's number. Susan's number. The lawyer's number. The police number. These were never written down, only repeated countless times in my mind. "Mom, are we going somewhere?" Lucas asked softly one night. My clever son must have sensed something was about to happen. "Yes, we're going on a wonderful adventure," I answered, hugging him. "Mr. Brown's coming too, right?" "Of course. Mr. Brown is our important ally." To ease my son's anxiety, I created a story. I painted our new life as an exciting adventure. About the new school. Being able to paint again. Playing freely with friends. And the most important preparation, mental preparation. Every night after my son fell asleep, I kept a diary to strengthen my resolve. "Dear Lucas, if you ever blame this decision in the future, it's all my responsibility. But protecting you is my greatest mission as a mother. Violence is never a form of love. We must choose a new path, not to deny your father, but for your future. I hope that someday you'll know what true love is and maintain your gentle heart. The day temporary protection at the shelter was arranged, I felt I could hold concrete hope for the first time. The lawyer would help with the restraining order application. Susan promised to help with Lucas's care through art therapy. A new residence was also lined up. A modest apartment in Boston's suburbs. There was even talk of working as a museum curator's assistant, utilizing my experience. And the day of action was approaching. If the plan doesn't work. When I expressed anxiety, Susan quietly answered. Don't think about it not working. But just in case, we're here for you. The support group members. Many of them had already started walking new paths in life. Their examples were beacons of hope for us. Robert's Chicago business trip. It was approaching in 1 week. I was making final preparations. Checking suitcase contents, moving essential belongings to the library locker. Verifying the new phone's charge, rememorizing emergency contacts. Checking the evidence in Mr. Brown one more time. And most importantly, preparing my son's heart. Hey Lucas, are you excited about our adventure tomorrow? During bedtime story time, I gently checked my son's reaction. Yes. But I'm a little scared. It's okay. Mommy and Mr. Brown will always be with you. My son hugged Mr. Brown tightly and nodded slightly. That gesture renewed my determination. Tomorrow, we take the step to change our lives. I'm not completely certain this decision is right. But I must take this step for my son's future. That's my mission as a mother. And it's also a battle to reclaim my dignity as a human being. We wait for tomorrow with the evidence sleeping inside Mr. Brown. Believing in a new dawn. The silence floating through the Ritz-Carlton lobby heightens my tension. Lucas sits beside me, clutching Mr. Brown tightly in the elegant space lined with marble columns. Spring sunlight streams through stained glass windows, casting brilliance on the luxurious furnishings. 3 p.m. 10 minutes until the meeting time. Mom, I'm thirsty. My son's voice brings me back to reality. Indeed, I'm also thirsty from tension. Yes, let's go to the vending machine. Just as I was about to stand up, 3 men approached. Dressed in black suits with armbands. For a moment, my heart nearly stopped. We've had a report of suspicious persons. Could we check your belongings? There was a hint of urgency in the first man's voice. I instinctively realized these security guards were hired by Robert. I'm sorry, but could I see your identification? I asked, trying to appear calm. However, they had already positioned themselves to surround us. There was no escape. We especially need to check the child's stuffed animal. There might be suspicious items hidden inside. When the central man reached out, Lucas began trembling, grabbing my skirt. Mom. I'm scared. My son's face was turning pale. At that moment, another man in uniform approached. His badge gleamed with Torres, Chief of Security. What's going on here? Torres's voice carried professional authority. Checking suspicious persons. We need to examine the contents of this stuffed animal. Wait. Show me your identification. At Torres's demand, the fake security guards hesitated for a moment. Taking advantage of that opening, one quickly snatched Mr. Brown from Lucas. "No! Mr. Brown!" My son's scream echoed through the lobby. The man roughly opened the teddy bear's zipper. At that moment, photos and documents scattered across the floor. Pictures showing traces of violence. Threatening emails. Medical reports. Bank transaction records. Everything was exposed. Torres seemed to understand the situation with just a glance at the scattered evidence. His expression changed instantly. "I need to call the police," he said with a trembling voice, reaching for his phone. At that moment, the fake security guards tried to flee all at once. "Nobody move." As Torres's voice rang out, several security guards rushed in from other parts of the lobby. And then, "Catherine!" A familiar voice. Susan came running with Jennifer, the lawyer. They had arrived earlier than our meeting time. "It's okay, you're safe now," Susan embraced Lucas and me. In her arms, my tension suddenly dissolved. The tears wouldn't stop. The police arrived quickly. The fake security guards were immediately detained. Their statements revealed that this operation was under Robert's orders. "Ma'am, we'll take you and your child to the shelter right away," a female police officer spoke gently. Behind her, Jennifer was hurriedly arranging something on her phone. "I'll file for the restraining order immediately. With this evidence, it will surely be issued right away." Everything was progressing like a dream. But this wasn't a dream. It was reality. "Mr. Brown, is Mr. Brown okay?" At Lucas's small voice, Torres carefully picked up the teddy bear and answered while gathering the evidence. "He's fine. Just a little tired. He's brave, just like you." His kindness transcended his role as head of security. That night, we slept in a safe place. The shelter staff warmly welcomed us. 3 months later, our lives are steadily moving forward, step by step. Our small apartment in Boston's suburbs lacks the luxury of our former penthouse. But here, we have true safety and warmth. Lucas has started at his new school. Though anxious at first, he's gradually making friends with the help of his kind teacher. Thanks to Susan's art therapy, bright colors are slowly returning to his pictures. "Mom, look! The picture I drew today." The drawings my son shows me now sparkle with rainbows and sunshine. And there's Mr. Brown, smiling too. I'm also gradually looking forward. My job as a museum curator's assistant at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts might be a small step, but it's a definite source of hope. The day I faced Robert in court, I didn't tremble. With Jennifer supporting me by my side, I told the whole truth. The judge immediately issued a formal restraining order. The divorce proceedings are underway. Jennifer is giving her all to support me with custody matters too. "Your courage will surely become someone else's hope," Susan's words still resonate in my heart. True, anxiety remains. But there's no going back now. Mr. Brown is still Lucas's best friend. His back zipper has been repaired, and now it's a place to store happy memories. Artwork from the new school. Photos with friends. And pictures of mother and son smiling together. As I watch my son's sleeping face, I quietly make a vow. To live life from now on without fear. To be true to my heart without cowering in the shadow of violence. Perhaps that's the greatest gift this experience has taught me. Outside the window, a gentle spring breeze is blowing, as if announcing the start of a new season. Mom. My son mumbles, as if talking in his sleep. I gently stroke his cheek. Good night, Lucas. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for watching over us again today. A safe place. Real hope. And above all, regained freedom. Our new life has only just begun. But I know we'll be all right. After all, we're not alone anymore. I could almost see Mr. Brown's kind eyes smiling gently. In a quiet residential area on the outskirts of San Jose, California, Jessica Watson was preparing breakfast in her two-story white-walled house as the morning sun streamed in. Standing in the kitchen, she gazed through the window at the trees in her yard. The gentle morning light softly illuminated the fruit bowl on the open kitchen counter. "Zoe, are you up?" Jessica called upstairs while carefully pouring pancake batter. As a freelance graphic designer working from home, this morning time was precious family bonding time for her. "Yes," came the response, followed by the sound of footsteps running down the stairs. Zoe, her 13-year-old daughter who had just started middle school, appeared with a hint of maturity beginning to show in her still childlike face. She entered the kitchen, her long black hair tied back in a ponytail, adjusting the collar of her school uniform blouse. "You have ballet lessons after school today, right?" When Jessica asked, Zoe nodded somewhat restlessly. Recently, she'd begun showing signs of typical teenage introversion, but she still never missed her twice-weekly ballet and swimming lessons. Watching her daughter, Jessica sometimes saw reflections of her younger self. "Where's Dad?" Zoe asked. "He already left for work. He'll be home late again today," Jessica answered with a touch of loneliness in her voice. Her husband Brian worked as a software developer at a major IT company in Silicon Valley. His meticulous and serious nature sometimes made him too dedicated to his work. It had become normal for him to return home after 9 p.m. on weekdays. Jessica remembered when they first met 8 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. She had been a single mother then, attending with 5-year-old Zoe. She still vividly remembered how Brian, noticing Zoe looking sleepy during the party, had gently helped her fall asleep on a sofa with natural kindness. After dating for a year, they married. Brian loved Zoe as if she were his own daughter, and their family of 3 was wrapped in gentle happiness. However, there was one person who had opposed their union from the start: Brian's sister, Rebecca. Rebecca, a former elementary school teacher, had retired 3 years ago due to chronic migraines. Though unmarried and outwardly kind, she had a somewhat controlling personality. She visited her brother's family frequently, especially recently, showing up almost without fail every weekend. "Is Aunt Rebecca coming this weekend too?" Zoe asked at the breakfast table, showing little enthusiasm. "Yes, probably," Jessica answered vaguely. Her relationship with her sister-in-law, who wasn't even her mother-in-law, rested on a delicate balance. Brian adored his sister, making it impossible to deny her presence. After breakfast, Jessica drove Zoe to school. Then she began work in her home office. While graphic design work often involved tight deadlines, working from home was a necessity to balance picking up and dropping off her daughter and household chores. In the afternoon, between online meetings, she folded laundry and started preparing dinner. While cooking, Jessica occasionally looked out the large window. In the backyard stood the wooden deck Brian had built last year during weekends. On holidays, they sometimes enjoyed family brunches there. She cherished these simple everyday moments of happiness. In the evening, it was time to drive Zoe to and from ballet class. When she picked up her daughter after practice, she noticed her usually bright expression seemed somewhat clouded. Even when asked, "What's wrong?" Zoe just replied, "Nothing." Whether this was typical teenage changes or something else, Jessica felt concerned as a mother. After 9 p.m., Brian returned home. At his "I'm home," Zoe burst out of her room and hugged her father. Though showing signs of fatigue, Brian gently patted his daughter's head. The three shared a late dinner, talking about the day's events. On the surface, it was a picture of perfect family happiness. However, a small anxiety had begun growing in a corner of Jessica's heart. Rebecca's increasingly frequent visits. Changes in Zoe's behavior. And sometimes, an inexplicable sense of unease. Still, she devoted herself to maintaining their peaceful daily life. At this point, she couldn't have imagined how that daily life was about to be greatly shaken. The changes had begun gradually within their peaceful routine. One evening, Zoe was working on her math homework in her room when she suddenly stopped writing. The air in the room felt slightly different. A sensation of someone being behind her sent chills down her spine. When she turned around, there was nothing there. Just the curtains swaying slightly in the twilight. Was it the air conditioning, or wind from outside? "It's just my imagination, surely just my imagination," she told herself as she turned back to her textbook. However, from that day forward, definite changes had begun. The unsettling feeling whenever she sat at her desk. The heaviness of the air behind her. The sense of someone's presence. It grew stronger at night. Zoe's room was at the end of the second floor, with a view of the oak tree in the yard. That view, which should have been comforting, now felt eerie. The sensation persisted whether the curtains were open or closed. A few days later, when Zoe got up to use the bathroom at night, she thought she heard faint footsteps in the second-floor hallway. The clock showed 2 a.m. Her parents were definitely asleep at this hour. When she stopped to identify the sound, she felt slight vibrations through the floor. Though she peered into the darkness of the hallway, she could see nothing. But something was definitely there. Her heart racing, Zoe hurried back to her room. She couldn't sleep until morning. Even during the day, the sensation wouldn't disappear. The feeling of being watched grew especially strong in the living room. Whether watching TV or looking at her smartphone, she felt eyes on her from somewhere. Though sunlight streamed through the large windows and familiar furniture filled the familiar space, something felt off. As if a stranger was holding their breath in a corner of the room. It was on a Saturday afternoon when she finally confided these anxieties to her mother. It was a rare weekend when Rebecca wasn't visiting, and mother and daughter were sharing a quiet moment. "Mom, I've been feeling strange lately," Zoe began hesitantly, and Jessica smiled gently at her. "When you're going through puberty, it's normal to have such feelings, Jessica said, softly stroking her hair. However, even her mother's words couldn't completely dispel her daughter's anxiety. If anything, that anxiety grew stronger day by day. Then, around 6 p.m. on a weekday, the fateful moment arrived. Unusually, Brian had messaged that he'd be home early that day. Having finished an interim report on a major project, he could finally have dinner with his family. Jessica and Zoe were relaxing on the living room sofa while waiting to prepare dinner. Soft twilight light filtered through the windows. Under the orange-tinted sky, the garden trees cast quiet shadows. On TV, their favorite drama was being rerun. A peaceful moment between mother and daughter. However, this peace wouldn't last long. Suddenly, Zoe grabbed Jessica's arm tightly. Feeling her daughter's trembling fingers, the mother turned in surprise to look at her face. Her usual bright expression had vanished, replaced by one mixing deep fear and anxiety. Her face was pale, her lips quivering. "Mom, I feel like someone's watching us." Zoe's voice trembled. In that moment, an inexplicable anxiety spread through Jessica's heart as well. Outside the windows it was already dark, with only streetlights illuminating the garden. Though she scanned every corner of the room, nothing seemed amiss. Yet something was definitely wrong. The air felt heavy, as if filled with someone's gaze. From that day forward, Zoe's behavior changed rapidly. She stopped eating dinner with her usual appetite. Even her favorite mom's special lasagna went largely untouched. She complained of difficulty sleeping at night. She began having more nightmares that would wake her up. Afraid to be alone in her room, she spent more time in Jessica's office. Even when doing homework, she seemed unsettled and less near her mother. She had become reluctant about ballet lessons too. "Can I skip today?" she began saying. As a mother, it was painful to watch the light gradually fade from her once vibrant daughter's eyes. "Zoe's been acting strange lately," she brought up her concerns to Brian one night after he returned from work. The dinner table still held mostly untouched food. However, her husband's response was unexpected. "All kids go through this during puberty. Many of my colleagues at work talk about their parenting struggles too," Brian answered without looking up from his work laptop. Caught up in a major project, he didn't even seem to have the capacity to notice his daughter's changes. The numbers on his screen apparently seemed more important than the family crisis before him. Surprisingly, it was Rebecca who responded most sensitively to these changes. During weekend visits, seeing Zoe's listless state, she gently spoke to her. Seated on the sofa, Rebecca placed a gentle hand on her niece's shoulder. "I could stay over. We could talk, just us girls." On the surface, it was a kind offer. However, when Jessica heard those words, a small warning bell rang in the depths of her heart. Something else seemed to lurk behind Rebecca's eyes. Though it was just a momentary impression, something definitely felt wrong. Why would she suddenly want to stay over when she already visited so frequently? That sense of unease continued to nag at Jessica's mind. The night deepened. Moonlight quietly filtered through the living room's large windows. Jessica sat on the sofa, lost in thought. Her daughter's anxiety, her husband's indifference, her sister-in-law's unusual interest. Like puzzle pieces, they seemed to be gradually forming some kind of pattern. However, the complete picture remained shrouded in fog. "Mom, can I sleep with you tonight?" A small voice came from upstairs. Zoe was peering down from the top of the stairs. She looked just like when she was little. Jessica quietly nodded. And she still didn't know that this sense of unease would soon greatly shake her family. Outside the window, the night wind quietly rustled the trees. Their shadows cast eerie patterns on the house walls. Unnoticed by anyone, watchful eyes had surely captured the family. She woke earlier than usual that morning. The clock showed 5 a.m. Zoe was breathing quietly beside her. How many years had it been since she'd slept in the same bed as her daughter? Thanks to allowing it due to her recent anxiety, her daughter seemed to have finally gotten some good rest. Jessica quietly slipped out of bed. Stepping into the dimly lit hallway, she surveyed the house with different eyes than the night before. Something was wrong. She had decided to search the entire house this morning to find that something. First, the second-floor hallway where Zoe had first sensed something amiss. Walking carefully along the wall, she paid attention to even small scratches and dents she usually wouldn't notice. As the morning sun slowly rose, faint light began streaming through the windows. In that light, her eyes caught a small hole in the wall. "This is..." She suppressed the urge to cry out. The hole was about 2 millimeters in diameter. At first glance, it looked like it might be from a thumbtack. However, looking closer, there was something shiny inside. When she pointed her smartphone light at it, there was definitely what appeared to be a lens gleaming there. She felt frozen to her core. Her daughter's anxiety hadn't been imagination at all. Someone had definitely been watching them. From inside their own house. Taking a deep breath, she regained her composure. She couldn't panic. She needed to preserve evidence. Carefully, she took photos of the discovered lens with her smartphone. She also took several photos of the entire hallway to show the positioning. Then she continued her investigation downstairs. Next to the living room bookshelf, near the kitchen counter, in the stairway landing. She kept finding small holes. She took photos of each location, desperately trying to steady her shaking hands. 6:30 a.m. Almost time for Zoe to wake up. Jessica had to start breakfast. She pretended normalcy as she stood in the kitchen. While making pancakes, various thoughts swirled in her head. Who? Why? Since when? And what should she do? "Good morning, Mom," Zoe came down looking sleepy. "Good morning, did you sleep well?" She responded in her usual voice as much as possible. Her daughter's expression seemed a bit more settled than the night before. The usual breakfast. The usual conversation. The usual smiles. However, Jessica's heart was in turmoil. Somewhere in this house, cameras were still watching them. She hadn't realized how difficult it would be to maintain composure while knowing this fact. 8:15 a.m. She drove Zoe to school as usual. "Have a good day," she waved with a smile. Back in the car, Jessica immediately took out her smartphone. She checked directions to the San Jose Police Department. She arrived at the police station after 9 a.m. After briefly explaining the situation at reception, Detective Sarah Martinez was quickly called. Sharp eyes gleamed within her warm expression. "Could you tell me the details?" Led to a private room, Jessica explained everything from her morning discovery to the previous events. Her daughter's anxious behavior, the nighttime sounds, and the multiple cameras she'd discovered. She explained the situation as calmly as possible while showing the smartphone photos. Detective Martinez nodded occasionally, taking notes of key points. "You've been through something terrible." At those words, tears threatened to spill from Jessica's eyes. The emotions she'd been desperately suppressing for the past few hours suddenly welled up. "Let me explain how we'll proceed," the detective began explaining in a calm tone. First priority was preserving evidence. The photos of the discovered cameras were immediately sent to the Digital Forensics Department. Next, they needed to investigate the house. Identifying camera locations, tracing data transmission destinations, and collecting fingerprints. "Could you tell me about who has access to your home?" At that question, Jessica explained the family's daily routine. Her husband's return times, her daughter's school schedule, and Rebecca's frequent visits. When she mentioned that name, Jessica didn't miss the slight change in the detective's expression. "We'll have an investigation team come in today. Could you please continue your normal routine as much as possible?" Detective Martinez continued, carefully choosing her words. "To avoid alerting the perpetrator, please try not to let on that you've discovered anything." Jessica nodded. Returning to her car, she felt strangely calm. The relief of having her previous anxiety and fear acknowledged as concrete facts. And the reassurance of having professional support. However, new anxieties were also sprouting. What truths would the coming investigation reveal? And how would those truths change her family? Starting the car engine, Jessica heaved a deep sigh. For now, she would focus only on protecting her daughter. The clock showed 10 a.m. 5 hours. She had to regain her composure before her daughter returned from school. Detective Martinez's call came at 6:15 that evening, after Zoe had retreated to her room. "Mrs. Watson, we have important developments," her voice mixed certainty with caution. Jessica's hands were still shaking as she took the call. The investigation team's thorough house search revealed facts beyond imagination. A total of 6 cameras were discovered throughout the house. Each was cleverly positioned to capture every moment of daily life. One by the living room bookshelf, positioned to overlook the entire room. One near the kitchen counter, angled to record detailed food preparation. One in the stairway landing, able to track family members going up and down. One in the second-floor hallway, monitoring nighttime movement. Most shocking was the discovery of 2 cameras near Zoe's room. One monitoring the room interior from the hallway, another monitoring entries and exits from inside the room. All these cameras had been embedded in the walls using professional tools. The wiring had been handled with expertise that would require specialized knowledge. "We found crucial evidence from security camera footage," the detective continued. The footage showed Rebecca visiting the house surprisingly frequently on weekdays. Most notably, she was seen bringing in a small tool bag. She would enter through the back door, avoiding neighbors' eyes, and there were signs of her doing some kind of work inside the house. Sometimes she would stay for over an hour. Furthermore, we've identified where the data was being sent. Technical analysis revealed shocking facts. All camera footage was connected to Rebecca's IP address. A sophisticated system had been constructed to stream real-time footage to her smartphone. The footage was encrypted and backed up to cloud storage. The surveillance had been meticulously planned on a scale far beyond imagination. That night at 10 p.m., Rebecca was arrested at her apartment. When the warrant was executed, her room had multiple monitors displaying real-time footage of Jessica's house. External hard drives storing past footage were piled on her bedroom bed. Surprisingly, Rebecca offered no resistance to arrest. It was as if she had been waiting for this moment. In the interrogation room, Rebecca began telling everything. Her confession revealed darkness deeper than anyone had imagined. Rebecca had lost her mother in a car accident when she was 5. Since then, she had desperately tried to be a mother figure to her younger brother Brian. After school, first caring for her young brother. Preparing dinner, helping with homework, putting him to bed. Their father immersed himself in work, making young Rebecca effectively the center of the family. "I had a duty to watch over that family," her words during interrogation mixed twisted affection with obsession. "Brian was practically my child. To have him taken away by a strange woman." In her mind, Jessica was merely a thief. Even Zoe's existence was something she found hard to accept. Her chronic migraines had made her mental state even more unstable. Her dependency on prescribed painkillers had also progressed. Her desire for a perfect family widened the gap with reality. Installing surveillance cameras was her twisted expression of protecting family. When told the truth, Brian was completely devastated in the police station's visiting room. "Why, sister?" His words came out as if being squeezed out, deep sadness dwelling in his eyes. Boundless love for the sister who had raised him since childhood. Unbelievable betrayal by that same sister. Regret for failing to protect his wife and child. Even the attending police officers were moved by the sight of him crying like a child. Jessica and Zoe quietly welcomed Brian when he returned home. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He knelt on the floor and bowed deeply. Self-reproach for not noticing his family's crisis while absorbed in work. Feelings of powerlessness for not detecting his sister's abnormal behavior. He repeated words of apology while crying. Seeing this, Jessica had made an important decision. She would not blame her husband. This incident had one perpetrator, and all others were victims. Her daughter who had feared Rebecca's twisted love. Her husband whose heart was torn by his sister's betrayal. And Rebecca herself, who had become mentally ill. "Let's get through this together," Jessica placed her hand on her husband's shoulder. Zoe also timidly approached her father and buried her face in his back. Perhaps this crisis would actually strengthen their family bonds. Rebecca was to undergo strict psychiatric evaluation and receive specialized treatment. The long-term effects of her migraine medication may have significantly impaired her judgment. However, most important was the deep loneliness and sense of loss lurking in the depths of her heart. The weight of responsibility thrust upon her at a young age had gradually warped her. "Let's do what we can to help your sister recover," Jessica quietly suggested to her husband. "Rather than giving in to hatred and anger, choose the path of understanding and forgiveness." It wasn't an easy decision, but she believed it was the best choice for everyone in the long run. All cameras were removed and the latest security system was installed. Physical safety was secured. However, healing emotional wounds would still take time. The family decided to receive regular counseling together. Zoe's psychological care was made the top priority. A month later, Zoe's smile gradually began returning. She started attending ballet lessons again. No one's watching anymore. When her daughter would occasionally ask anxiously, Jessica would nod firmly. "It's okay. It's our job to protect you." Spring sunlight streamed brightly through the windows. Along with the arrival of a new season, the family's healing was surely progressing one step at a time. The holes in the walls were all filled and covered with new wallpaper. Though physical scars may disappear, healing emotional wounds still needed time. However, family bonds would surely become stronger through this ordeal. Jessica believed this as she quietly gazed at the family photo placed by the window. 3 months had passed since then. Rebecca continues treatment at the state mental health facility. During Brian's weekly visits, he says glimpses of his former gentle sister are slowly returning. New migraine treatments are beginning to show effects, and she's gradually recovering from drug dependency. The family of 3 continues their weekly counseling without fail. Zoe, who was initially withdrawn, can now openly talk about her feelings. After words like, "I was scared," and "I couldn't believe it" always follow, "but I'm okay now." Though small, it was a sure sign of recovery. The newly installed latest security system can check the house's status via smartphone. Ironically, it functions as technology to protect the family, the opposite of the previous surveillance. Brian's work style has also changed. He chooses to work remotely 2 days a week, consciously increasing time spent with family. Family time after dinner has become a new daily routine. And tonight, they're going as a family to see Zoe's ballet recital. Their daughter has been excited since morning, wanting to proudly show the results of her practice. Healing their wounded hearts may still take time. But they're definitely moving forward. "Let's go," Jessica smiled as she called out. Their family's shoes lined up at the entrance, waiting for new steps forward. Sometimes the hardest trials can nurture the strongest bonds. This was something she knew from first-hand experience. My name is Olivia Walker. I live in the suburbs of Minneapolis, Minnesota, with my husband and our 10-year-old son. As a freelance graphic designer working from home, my days revolve around managing my work while taking care of my son Joshua's school runs. We lived peacefully in our house surrounded by white picket fences, at least until that day. I chose to work from home because I wanted to be present for my son's growth. My routine includes sending Joshua off to school in the morning and fitting in design work between his afternoon baseball practice. With an annual income of around $70,000, combined with my husband's earnings, we weren't living luxuriously, but our life was fulfilling. My husband Nathan had been building his career as an account manager at a major advertising agency. His salary had increased to $90,000, and he was highly regarded at work, the ideal husband supporting our family. On the surface, anyway. Tall and mild-mannered, he was well trusted by his colleagues. He had a habit of wearing navy suits on presentation days, and I would always pick out his tie. Our son Joshua is in 4th grade at the local elementary school. With his bright and friendly personality, he's popular in his class. He plays second base on the baseball team and looked forward to nothing more than weekend practice sessions with his father. He excels particularly in math and says he wants to become a cool businessman like his father when he grows up. He sometimes helps with my work too, showing remarkable design sense. We met 10 years ago at a friend's wedding. I was working as a wedding planner's assistant, and Nathan was the groom's college best friend. I was immediately taken by his gentle smile and sincere character. Our first date was at a jazz concert at First Avenue. That night, he told me, "When I'm with you, I can be my true self." After 6 months of dating, we got married. We started our newlywed life in a modest suburban apartment. We shared our dreams and supported each other, moving forward one step at a time. Though our wedding was small, I'll never forget the wedding cake made by a wonderful pastry chef we met at Caribou Coffee. Our honeymoon was a modest 2-night trip to Duluth due to budget constraints, but the happiness we felt then wasn't any less than if we'd taken a luxurious vacation. And now, we live in a quiet suburban neighborhood of Minneapolis, in a house with a $2,000 monthly mortgage. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a spacious backyard, perfect for Joshua to play with his friends. We had managed to save $60,000 and were steadily preparing for future college expenses and retirement. From my home office, I could see Nathan and Joshua practicing baseball in the backyard on weekends. Watching them was my greatest joy. Our monthly family dinner tradition involved making hot dish, a Minnesota tradition, with ingredients from the local Byerly's. After dinner, we'd play board games or look through family photos. Those simple moments were our precious treasures. But recently, subtle changes began appearing in our daily life. Nathan started working overtime more frequently, saying he'd be late 3 or 4 times a week. At first, I didn't question his explanation about a big project coming in. Weekend work increased, and family time definitely decreased. I also noticed he became inseparable from his phone. He even started taking it into the shower with him, and his expression would soften every time he looked at the screen. As his wife, I didn't miss these subtle changes. My son started mumbling things like, "I wish I could play baseball with Dad," which broke my heart. Though I understood my husband's busy work schedule, I couldn't shake off a feeling that something was wrong. The small sighs in the middle of the night, my husband's increasing weekend outings, and our diminishing conversations, everything was changing slowly but surely. Our weekend shopping at Mall of America, baseball games at Target Field, and picnics at Lake Calhoun gradually became mere memories. Weekends became filled with emergency meetings and important deadlines, and my heart ached every time I saw Joshua's lonely profile. As family conversations decreased and I watched Nathan constantly checking his phone during dinner, a vague anxiety grew within me. But none of us could have imagined the truth that awaited us. In the spring of our 10th year of marriage, an event occurred that would dramatically change our lives. At 2:17 a.m., a phone call broke the silence. "Mrs. Walker, this is Dr. Smith, the doctor on duty at Mayo Clinic. Your husband has been in a car accident." In that moment, I felt the blood drain from my face. My mind went blank, and I almost dropped the receiver. I quickly called my mother-in-law who lived nearby to watch over the sleeping Joshua. The spring night in Minneapolis was still chilly. I hastily put on a coat and drove to the hospital. It was a single-vehicle accident. His life isn't in danger. How relieved I felt at the doctor's words. But I didn't know yet that this was just the beginning of a long nightmare. At the hospital, a doctor in his mid-40s was waiting in the emergency room. "I'm Dr. David Martin, a neurologist," he introduced himself with an unusually calm demeanor. "Your husband fortunately has no major injuries. However," that "however" made my heart leap again. "There's a possibility of memory loss. We're currently conducting detailed tests." When I was shown to the hospital room, my husband looked at me as if I were a stranger. He had a small wound on his forehead and scrapes on his arm, but indeed, there appeared to be no major injuries. "Who are you?" Those words felt like cold rain drenching my entire body. "Nathan, it's me. Olivia. I'm sorry. I can't remember." The next few hours felt like a bad dream. According to the doctor, he might be experiencing temporary memory loss from the accident's impact. However, strangely enough, his memories about work seemed to remain vivid. "I'm an account manager at an advertising agency. We have a presentation for a major auto manufacturer this week." Something about my husband's expression as he spoke seemed unnaturally natural. The next morning, I brought Joshua to the hospital room. "Dad, are you okay?" My husband showed a confused expression at our son's voice. "You're my son, aren't you?" Those words brought tears to Joshua's eyes. But strangely, from that day forward, my husband and son's relationship began to improve rapidly. His hospital stay began, and I visited every day. The private room was covered by insurance, and the nurses were kind. On the surface, everything seemed fine. But something was off. That sense of wrongness grew stronger day by day. First, it was strange that only his work memories remained extremely clear. He remembered colleagues' names, ongoing project details, and even client appointments. Meanwhile, memories of our wedding and precious moments with our son were completely gone. Then there were the frequent private conversations with Dr. Martin. I witnessed them talking alone for long periods, even outside of examination hours. The nurses' behavior was also concerning. They would wear apologetic expressions whenever they saw my husband. There were unknown visitors outside visiting hours. I saw shadows signing in at the nurses' station, but strangely, there were no records in the visitor log. My husband's cell phone was also suspicious. His expression would brighten every time he looked at the screen. But when I approached, he would hurriedly turn it off. As his memories supposedly returned, his relationship with our son improved rapidly. It might have been even better than before the accident. They would play board games in the hospital room on weekends, or he would help with homework. While these scenes were certainly heartwarming, something felt manufactured. That sense of wrongness never left my heart. About 2 weeks into his hospital stay, my vague suspicions suddenly turned into certainty. That day, Joshua's baseball practice was unexpectedly canceled. "Let's surprise Dad with a visit," my son innocently suggested, and I nodded. At that moment, I couldn't have imagined what we would witness at the hospital. On our way to my husband's room, where he was supposed to be meeting with his doctor, we passed by the examination room. The door was slightly open, and voices came from inside. In that moment, all the mysteries connected with cruel clarity. The examination room door was slightly ajar. "Dad will be so happy." My son's innocent smile made what was about to happen even more cruel. My husband's voice leaked from the examination room. "How long do I have to keep up this act? My wife is getting suspicious." "Just a bit longer. It's natural for memories to return gradually. I want to end this soon. Ashley's pregnancy is starting to show. Don't worry about my sister." In that moment, it felt like the world had stopped. My breathing became difficult, and my vision distorted. I instinctively covered my son's ears with both hands. "Joshua, wait here." "Mom," I heard Dad's voice. I wanted to protect him from hearing this cruel truth. I wanted to shield him from it for as long as possible. The thought squeezed my chest. From the shadow of the hallway, I watched my husband and the doctor emerge from the examination room. It felt like I was controlling someone else's body. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Then, a woman walked down the hallway. "Ashley, glad you could make it." Ashley Martin, a Chicago Business School graduate who had joined as my husband's subordinate a year ago. The doctor's sister. And my husband's lover. Under her loose dress, a small bump was clearly visible. "I know her." My son's voice interrupted my thoughts. "She was at Dad's company Christmas party. Remember, Mom?" Memories raced through my mind like a film reel. Last December's Christmas party. Her elegant smile beside my husband. I hadn't noticed anything then, but looking back, there was already a secret between them. "Hey Mom, I've seen that lady having lunch with Dad before." "What?" "Last month, on my way home from school. In front of Caribou Coffee." My son's innocent testimony stabbed my heart even deeper. Everything connected. The increased overtime, weekend work, the inseparable phone, and this fake memory loss. One of the nurses approached me. "Mrs. Walker, may I speak with you?" Her name was Sarah, a veteran nurse in her mid-50s. "There's something that's been bothering me. That woman often visits outside of visiting hours." She gestured with her eyes toward Ashley walking down the hallway. Even for a doctor-patient relationship, it seems a bit unnatural. Tears rolled down my cheeks. My son gently held my hand. "Mom, don't cry." With those words, I made my decision. The evidence was sufficient. My son's testimony, the nurse's testimony, and above all, the truth I had seen with my own eyes. The time for the final confrontation had come. We arranged for private family time in the counseling room, just the three of us. My husband seemed to already realize his plan had been exposed. "Tell me everything." My voice was calmer than I expected. The relationship with Ashley began a year ago. It started during a business trip to Chicago. Then she became pregnant. When we consulted her brother, Dr. Martin. "And you came up with this fake memory loss plan." The plan was perfect. By faking memory loss, they could minimize asset division and achieve an amicable divorce. With the doctor's cooperation, they could create the appearance of an expert diagnosis. The doctor, who had initially opposed his sister's affair, decided to help after learning of the pregnancy. But why such a roundabout method? In a normal divorce, you'd get 50% of the assets. The settlement would be high. And my husband looked at Joshua. I'd be at a disadvantage in the custody battle. Our son silently stared at his father. His eyes held a mature understanding. I'll let go of the money. But were you planning to destroy your relationship with our son too? No, that's different. With Joshua, I wanted to maintain. Maintain what? My voice trembled slightly. Weekend visits, child support, I promise. Because he's important to me. Ironically, those words alone seemed sincere. Dad? Joshua quietly spoke up. Were you really pretending not to remember me? I'm sorry. You're a liar. Those words visibly distorted my husband's expression. For the first time, I saw what seemed like genuine emotion. Leaving the counseling room, my decision was already made. The next day, I contacted a lawyer and began preparing for divorce proceedings. I decided to handle everything legally, the settlement, custody issues, all of it. Ashley was waiting in the hallway. Her belly was unmistakably larger under her loose dress. We passed each other without exchanging words. That night, in the car ride home, I talked with Joshua. Mom, what's going to happen to us now? We're starting a new life. But don't worry, we have hope. I'm okay as long as I'm with you, Mom. My son's strength saved me. Looking at the streetlights blurred by tears, I resolved to overcome this trial. This isn't the end, but a new beginning. That's what I chose to believe. After the truth came to light, time seemed to accelerate. The first week felt like walking through fog. Every morning when I woke up, I thought, this might be a bad dream. But reality stood unforgivingly before us. Gathering evidence was easier than I expected. If anything, I was surprised by how many traces they had left. First, my son's testimony. Mom, I have photos. One day, Joshua brought his iPad. It contained several photos from last year's Christmas party. His father and Ashley smiling together. At the time, it seemed like an innocent snapshot. But looking at it now, the way their gazes met revealed their secret. I have this too. The next photo was from our baseball game at Target Field. In the background, a figure that appeared to be Ashley was captured. My son's innocent photography hobby had ironically preserved decisive evidence. Sarah, the nurse, provided more information. Here are the records of visits outside regular hours. Her private records detailed Ashley's visiting times. I felt it violated medical ethics. Her conscience helped reveal the truth. The relationship with Dr. Martin was also unusual. Another nurse testified. Personal relationships with patients' families are usually strictly limited. But as evidence accumulated, the full picture of their plan emerged. My husband and Ashley's affair had begun more than a year ago. Every Tuesday and Thursday, they met under the guise of overtime work. Weekend trips disguised as Chicago business trips. Everything had been meticulously planned. The pregnancy was discovered 2 months ago. When they consulted Ashley's brother, Dr. Martin, this plan was born. A normal divorce would be disadvantageous in terms of asset division. However, with a memory loss diagnosis, the situation would change. With the doctor's cooperation, it should have been a perfect plan. I began consulting with a lawyer. Jennifer Bryant, a divorce specialist who particularly excels in cases involving fraudulent acts. We have sufficient evidence. Her words gave me some comfort. Faking memory loss is a serious illegal act. If we can prove the doctor's involvement, it will strengthen our position further. The settlement demand was set at $500,000. The asset division could potentially be more favorable than initially planned. But for me, the most important issue was custody. I won't compromise on Joshua. Don't worry. With proof of the father's fraudulent actions, full custody is quite possible. Events began moving rapidly. First, a report to the hospital's ethics committee. Dr. Martin's actions were clear violations of medical ethics. His medical license was at risk. Next, a report to my husband's company. An inappropriate relationship with a superior violated company compliance rules. Disciplinary dismissal became a possibility. Finally, the formal divorce filing. It was submitted to the court with all the evidence attached. My final face-to-face meeting with my husband was in the court's mediation room. I admit everything. With an exhausted expression, my husband began his testimony. The relationship with Ashley, the fake memory loss, all of the plan. Ashley was waiting in another room. Her belly was now 7 months along. Yesterday's test revealed it was a boy. Do you have anything to say to me? After a long silence following my quiet question, my husband spoke. I'm sorry. To you, to our son. I was the worst husband and father. With those words, our 10 years of marriage flashed before my eyes. The happy days, the times we shared our dreams, the moments we celebrated our son's growth. Everything converged in this moment. Goodbye, Nathan. My voice was calmer than I expected. The mediation results were favorable to us. Afterward, our new life began. We rented a small apartment in northern Minneapolis, in a quiet residential area. 2 bedrooms, $1,500 monthly rent. Modest, but enough space for our fresh start. My freelance work is going well, with income actually higher than before. With increased requests from major publishers, my annual income is expected to exceed $100,000. My son has been surprisingly strong and wise. Mom, I like our new home, Joshua said with a smile on moving day. What about Dad? I'll see him sometimes. But I don't like liars. He's receiving counselor support at school. The teachers are very understanding, and his friendships continue unchanged. I, too, have slowly begun to look forward. 6 months have passed since the divorce. The autumn breeze signals the beginning of a new season. Recently, my old friend Caroline invited me to join her venture. I'm starting a new painting class. We could use your design talents. Weekend assistant teaching. New encounters and creative time. These are gradually healing my heart. Joshua continues playing baseball. Now I'm his practice partner. Mom, you throw pretty fast. Time with my son has become my most precious treasure. My husband, ex-husband and Ashley had their baby boy last month. They named him Liam, my son told me. Dad showed me a picture during our last visit. Hearing about this no longer pains my heart. Now, outside my window, the sunset is beautifully fading. As I sit at my desk working on a proposal for a new project, I reflect. Life takes unexpected turns. But I believe every path leads us to growth. Mom, what's for dinner? My son's voice calls from the kitchen. Well, another page of our new life is about to begin.